transition to the next presentation, which is Joanna Eckles from the American Bird Conservancy. She is the Bird Cities America coordinator, and she'll be presenting on Bird Cities America supporting a hemisphere-wide urban bird conservation network. So with that, Joanna, please take it away.
Perfect. Thank you. Thank you. Perfect lead-ins, all of you. I'm really happy to be here. I am going to talk a little bit about what Bird City is, what we're envisioning with Bird City Americas, kind of the who, what, and how sort of thing, what we're actively working on, and kind of what's next. And of course, lots of gorgeous bird pictures because we're here celebrating birds. Birds are awesome. So what is Bird City? Let me get these advancing here. There we go. Bird City is both a recognition program and an education program. So to be recognized as a Bird City, communities take specific concrete actions to help birds. The program itself really helps them see the types of actions that are needed and that are possible. Oftentimes the actions that they're considering help them to see the work that they're already doing, but kind of through a new lens. So they're already doing plantings in their municipality, helps them to see a way that they might do plantings or buildings or lighting or all of those things with a different lens, sort of by considering the needs of birds. So how it works is that municipal leaders and also lots of different partners, they come together and they take action. They fulfill a certain number of actions in these categories. And they sort of explain what they've done in an application. And then if they've done enough, they get recognized as a bird city. And one of the great things about this type of program is that once the community is in, it's not like a one-time recognition, it's an ongoing thing. So once they're recognized, they're sort of like in this pipeline where they can learn more and do more and learn more and do more over time. So it's really an ongoing continuous improvement kind of program. And that's super important because oftentimes people are super interested in doing things to help birds in their communities, but they don't necessarily know where to start or what to do. So that's why it's both recognition and education, and exposing them to these possibilities helps maybe more things happen that never would have without it. So, so like many people have articulated here, we really talk about Bird City as being good for birds and people. So it's all about, very much about these co-benefits, those synergies between what's good for birds and what's good for people. And you really can't talk about Bird City Americas or Bird City in general without briefly talking about Bird City, Wisconsin. So Bird City, Wisconsin was the first model, the first program, which turned out to serve as a model. It was first conceptualized by a team of partners in Wisconsin in the early 2000s. And after years of kind of thinking and working and discussing, they actually launched the program in 2009 and recognized their first communities in 2010. And that program was so successful and popular, like people just really got it and it resonated with them and they wanted to duplicate it. And that's exactly what has happened. Now, Bird City, Wisconsin model has inspired new programs across the country. There are 9 programs in the US now, Bird City, Bird Friendly, Bird Town, so related programs. 9 programs in the US and 1 program, a countrywide program in Canada, which we're gonna get to hear about. So many amazing adaptations on this same sort of basic model or theme. And all of those got kind of various levels of help from Wisconsin. Speaking for myself, I started the program in Minnesota and I feel like I was in it feels like almost constant contact with the Wisconsin leadership as I was figuring out all the different details. But by now, each of these programs has developed really strong local networks that they use to run their programs, and each is sort of a powerful model in and of itself, which is what we're using as we're developing Bird City Americas. So Bird City Americas really came out of that desire to duplicate Bird City, Wisconsin. So that's kind of the why. The need, there was a big need kind of created by that success. Initially, the programs really spread organically, which was certainly an awesome working model for a while. Still could be, but long term, there was really a vision, even from the beginning, from the founders of Bird City, Wisconsin, there was a vision for creating something bigger that could help everyone, because it was hard for Wisconsin or for any of the other programs to really commit the time to helping start up all these other programs. And because they did all start up and they were quite independent, they moved in different ways, and everybody was duplicating and reinventing, which is natural, but also tough. You know, there's not that many of us, and we have to like share as much as we can. So really, in essence, everyone could potentially be operating with a lot of the same tools. So that's really the why for the vision for Bird City Americas. And really what Bird City Americas is the network that will support Bird City programs, which I'll talk a little bit more about what I mean by that in a minute. We, like at ABC and EFTA, we won't work so much with the communities on the ground that are applying to be recognized, applying to be bird cities. Instead, what we're creating is a network to help them maintain and grow this network of programs, and the programs are the ones who support their local communities. So Bird City Americas is being designed to create that overall network that's going to provide resources and guidance and kind of systems to make new programs in new states, besides the 9 that exist and in other countries, easier to create and faster to create. That kind of consistency will be able to help promote, will make programs, I think, a little bit more effective and efficient. And that consistency will help them to focus their attention on the programmatic side instead of so much on the admin side. So that's the goal. The who is important too. Bird City is really a collaborative model from the local communities that are applying to be recognized, up through the state or regional programs that are supporting the states, up through leadership and partners at a national level. So it's really collaborative, a very collaborative model. From a practical side, Bird City Americas is a partnership between ABC and EFTA, Environment for the Americas, which we just heard about. We also have significant support from the Fish and Wildlife Service, both Region 3 and the Urban Bird Treaty Program, who we already heard from this morning. Our scope is the Western Hemisphere initially, with ABC supporting that kind of overall network and creating those systems and working closely with state programs in North America. And then EFTA has the excellent network throughout Latin America and the Caribbean. That's hugely important in helping us really see this through not just a sort of US and Canada lens, but seeing it, seeing the nuances in the translation, not only the translation of language, but the translation of actions too, like what actions are appropriate in different places. So helps us to sort of be inclusive to those cultural nuances that we may unknowingly not attend to without that. And of course, the how is important. How are we working to structure this program overall? So I alluded to this, but the model is basically, the key to the model currently is, again, collaborative, especially at this sort of state and regional level. So we don't have the capacity to like support communities all over the country or the hemisphere, nor do we really have the local connections to do that, even if we had the capacity. So we really love the model, even though it's a little harder, but we love the model of helping these state and regional programs develop. And they're the ones that then can be really attentive to their locality. So in the states, those programs are going to be owned and operated by whoever owns and operates them. We won't own them. We won't operate them. We can't, unfortunately, fund them. But we're providing the support again to make it easier. And then in Latin America and the Caribbean, at least at first, we are piloting a little bit differently, a little more regionally. An example in Mexico as a country, not as in individual states, at least again to begin with, and we'll see how that works, and we'll adjust accordingly. Again, I think the important thing, it really exists, Bird City Americas really exists to be support of that network, uniting the programs that exist. We just had our first meeting yesterday of as many coordinators of state programs and country programs as we could, which was really awesome. Again, allowing other programs to form and grow more easily, connecting them, very importantly, sharing info and resources, a lot of cool resources you've seen today. That's the kind of thing we'll be working to create and share, and then easing those administrative burdens. So 2 big things we're working on to make all that happen, creating like the system to manage it all, the website really, and then determining how to help programs kind of curate special or specific actions or requirements that make sense to them locally. And that's kind of the requirements, which I'll talk about each of those things next. So the website is really important. We're working hard on creating a website through which not only the programs, but the communities, so the community that applies for recognition, and also the program that is going to be recognizing them can manage it. So it's going to be an online platform, a website, and possibly some integrated or standalone tools, but together those will be available to programs and their communities so that everyone can manage all these details much more efficiently. So they'll be able to manage their applications literally, like who is applying, what they've done, what is still needed, instead of doing all that pretty manually, which is a burden and what's happening in a lot of cases. The site will also be where communities themselves will actually be recognized. So like they'll have each have a presence on the site. So if you're Bird City Cozumel, you'll have a page to address who you are, where you are, and what you've done to achieve status. So, and then behind the scenes, we're working on the tools also for networking and sharing materials and guidance. So this is a huge part of what we're working on. The second huge part is really helping these individual statewide or regional programs to lay out their requirements, what they ask of communities. So in and of themselves, those requirements or actions are educational, really. So often, even though municipalities, like by design, are making key decisions that either help or harm biodiversity, they often don't fully understand what actions they could incorporate in their ongoing day-to-day work. So the Bird City requirements help lay out the problems facing birds and also provide specific examples of potential solutions, so concrete actions. So in framing up that in creating like that framework to help new programs get started, the intention is not simply to scale up any of the individual programs, Bird City, Wisconsin, or Minnesota, or anywhere, because they weren't really designed for that. So the intent is to build on those lessons and create the guidance for how to lay out requirements for a state, if that makes sense. So we're hoping to be able to provide flexibility to write actions very specific. Mexico's actions are going to be different than Canada's actions or Arizona's actions, and we're building the flexibility to do that. So when we look across all the threats to birds, and this has been addressed quite nicely already today too, the problems and solutions really land in certain categories. And so similarly, the framework for our requirements or criteria are going to fall in those same categories. And they're the big ones: habitat, threats, including climate change, education and engagement of people. Yet again, we're going to create the ability to customize those underlying actions locally. And there will be certain actions required by all bird city communities. We're working on figuring those out. An example might be World Migratory Bird Day. Right now, most programs require a World Migratory Bird Day event of every community.
So Joanna, just a couple minutes.
Yep, perfect. I'm on my last one.
Great.
So next big steps are developing that online platform. That's a huge focus right now. We're still in that hopeful stage that we're going to be able to create a platform that will do all these things that we wanted to do, providing that admin support and also that networking support. We're also taking some of the overall questions about like, how do you start one of these programs? And we're formulating that into, an actual process. And we're walking through that process with EFTA and their coordinators, specifically focusing on Mexico right now. So literally piloting that guidance and materials. And then, like I mentioned, we're beginning to build the collaborative network with existing programs that just has so much possibility for helping those existing programs and also helping us devise a really great program for new people to come in with. So that's it. More awesome birds. And I think I have a few minutes if there's any questions.
Yes. Thank you so much, Joanna. And there's plenty of time for questions. So please.
Joanna, so there's one question here from Jenny McFarland, and she asks, when will the Bird City Americas program be ready to add more partners? Arizona involved.
Okay, what was the name? I'm sorry, Linnea.
Sure, Jenny McFarland.
Jenny.
From Arizona.
So Jenny, let's get in touch, and because there's multiple ways of doing it. What we really love is the iterative model that we can get any groups that are interested. We can get you started on the kinds of things that you're going to need to put in place. Like, for example, team creation in Arizona. We already created the kind of draft guidance for how you would go about setting up your team in Arizona. So that's our vision for like the interim before the fancy website is available, to really have the groups that we're going to test the guidance with and such. So get in touch with me and we can talk more.